Greetings. Isaiah 43:19 says, see, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth, springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. I want us to understand that you have been leading in change. Do not panic. Take a breath, breathe, because you have led in an unprecedented time in our lifetime. We have never had a pandemic and you have led through it, and you need to celebrate yourself. You need to celebrate this. Ministry has changed in the last few years, the last few months, even the last few weeks. And you have been leading and navigating that change. Celebrate the fact that you've made it through. The last 10 changes that have happened in the 10 years ago, we were so focused on having large worship gatherings. The larger, the better. We were into large church facilities. We were into that our first person that we were going to hire was the band and the worship leader and the musicians. We wanted our ministerial staff at the church to be have ministry degrees, have biblical or seminary training. We wanted the emphasis to be on performance singing. We wanted Kirk Franklin to walk up in there and be able to record a CD based off of our choir's performances and our praise teams. We had community myopia. We were so inwardly focused on who we saw every Sunday morning that we were forgetting that the community that we were leading that was around us. We had very little importance on groups. We thought the Sunday mornings gathering was the biggest group we needed to be concerned with. Our church leaders, we wanted them to they had a mindset of degree and done, no more learning, no more things that we needed to be trained on. Now let's fast forward 10 years to now. Smaller worship gatherings. This is a desire among our millennials to be a part of smaller gatherings rather than larger gatherings. Smaller church facilities. There is major work on this particular one because first, church leaders are more hesitant to spend funds now on largely unused facilities. Second, church buildings with our churches are building with less space for adult small groups or Sunday school and are choosing to have those groups meet off-site or on non-worship days. Third, the smaller worship gathering noted above means smaller worship centers. First priority staff person hired, children's ministry. Children's ministers are now the first priority in churches. Why? This is a huge shift in ministry led by the large millennial generation and their children. Millennials are looking for a church that is safe, sanitary, educational, and fun for their children. Ministry degrees are optional for church staff now. Churches today are more likely to call someone on staff from within their congregation, and that person may not have a Bible college or seminary degree. I don't know about you, but I would rather have somebody who loves the Lord and who loves God's people rather than have a ministerial degree. Emphasis is on congregational singing. Healthy churches are seeing an awakening of congregational singing. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord. See, 10 years ago, it was contemporary churches had an emphasis with performance on the praise team and the band, while traditional churches emphasized the performance of the choir and soloists. So now, too many churches in the past 2 decades all but abandoned their communities. And we are paying the price for that, for our short-sightedness today. Healthy churches that have continuity in ministry, realize that the community is their place of ministry. The community is their Jerusalem, as it was spoken in Acts, the 1st chapter, verse 8. Healthy churches today make groups, community groups, home groups, Sunday school, life groups, etc., a high priority. 10 years ago, many church leaders did not see how groups could enhance the health of the church in discipleship, evangelism, prayer, ministry, and fellowship. But there's something that you got to understand. The health of your church is not in big gatherings. The health of your church is measured in your small group participation. For several decades, church leaders essentially ended their education process with a college or seminary degree. But in today's ever-changing world, leaders of healthy churches have intentionally established a discipline of continuous learning. No matter the church's context, there is a wave of succession coming in the next 10 years. And the churches that ignore this and try to fill positions reactively will struggle, and many will rapidly decline. There should be a succession plan of leadership. We got to make sure that we are training the next leaders. You really do want to train your replacement. Think about Moses and Joshua. Joshua didn't just pop on the scene. Moses mentored Joshua. Moses trained Joshua. Joshua was one of the 2 spies that went and spied out the land. That's how much he trusted Joshua. So there has to be a succession plan in your leadership. Preaching and teaching will become more relevant. Generation X and millennial leaders will increasingly be in positions of senior staff. And this, I'm sure, is hard to imagine for many leaders, but it is coming fast. The churches that thrive over the next 10 years will see the internet as a vast mission field. The sermons that happen at the big gatherings will be repurposed for consumption on video and social media platforms. So your preaching and your teaching will become even more important. We cannot give people now, today, in these dark times, in these ever-changing times, a watered-down, sugar-coated gospel. We have to give them something that they can digest, that they can live with until they come back again. You got to have teaching that brings them to remembrance on Monday morning. You got to have preaching that puts into their spirit a seed that is planted and begins to grow on Tuesday. We got to begin to preach and teach the gospel, purely unadulterated truth. Youth ministries will be a crisis for some. The youth ministries will see themselves as a ministry that exists to disciple youth. It will thrive, but it won't be easy. We have to emphasize digital strategies to communicate, and we'll need to increase this. Leadership training will need to increase. Youth ministries will need an army of caring adults who will be willing to go to the games, to the plays, to the recitals, and etc. Experimental opportunities will need to increase. Things that they can't do online, like serving someone in need. The table will be the best gathering place. Table fellowship is another way that our youth ministries can strive. Partnerships with families will need to move from theory and ideal to reality and missions. A church's program, the more a church will offer in a way of programming and events, the less engagement that church will have. Now, that's not to say that a church should offer zero programming, not at all. But in thriving churches in these changing times, the mission and vision will be so crystal clear that the church can decide what is it willing to say no to. Busy churches will continue to plateau, will be plateauing churches. Laser-focused churches will continue to be thriving churches. How we make disciples through programs must simplify. Less is more every time. And the future of the church, the truth will become more and more evident that we have to become laser focused in reaching people. But as more opportunities come to young leaders to lead in established churches, an emergence of a new end thing will come with it. Church revitalization and church replanting. I know that is scary for some of us, but if you do not want your church to die, think of it as a plant. Sometimes a plant can grow to a certain extent in one pot, in one way, and needs to be pruned and replanted. That's what we're doing with this church revitalization in this new and changing time. To lead in these changing times, we got to learn what to say no to, what to prune, and what to replant. See, while some churches will refuse to change, many churches will choose to put aside their preference in order to reach those who don't have a relationship with Christ. We got to, and with that already growing trend, we'll pick up even more steam. Churches will need to reinvent themselves. Where our focus was for people who have gone from gathering into the church, now we got to begin to take the message and sending the message to the people, texting, carrying the message. The reality is, over the next 10 years, we need church revitalization and church replanting to be a major emphasis. Pastoral care is more centered in small groups. Pastoral leadership is going to be more team-based. These are things. Pastoral failures are more widely known because the internet has created this reality. Seldom can a pastor or a church hide a failure anymore. And that's okay. The mission of ministry has not changed, but the method has. The highways and byways have become digital. Reaching the masses has become more interactive. Creativity, innovation, and resilience are needed tools in leading in changing times. The leadership style that works for one generation may not be as effective for congregations in another generation. So we have to learn adaptive leadership styles. Reevaluate what is traditional that needs to be transformed or needs to be trashed. I know, that's scary. But we got to really streamline what we need to say yes to and what we need to say no to. In these last almost 2 years that we're coming up on, we have really seen what is most important and now what is not most important. What we thought was vital to the success of preparing the gospel, we have now seen that is not necessary. We have seen that we don't have to stay in church for 2 hours for the message to become clear. We have seen that program does not have to be do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. Preach the good news that Jesus Christ is Lord. Connect with your people, engage with them in different ways, make it personal, make it intimate. It is no longer this schism between the pew and the pulpit. Now we are all on one thing. God has made low things high and high things low. We're all on the same level playing field, and we got to pay attention to what is being changed. Leadership through radically changing times. Anyone can hold the helm when the sea is calm. Even the smartest people can't develop perfect leadership style. That's simply because there isn't one. You are going to make mistakes. Leading through radically changing times, you're going to try things that are going to not land so well. But that doesn't mean that you're a failure. That just means you got to learn a different way to do it. As you gain experience, you'll make mistakes, but also learn from them. Adapt, become a dynamic leader who can adapt with the times. When you didn't know Zoom, now it has become an essential ministry tool. Where you didn't know StreamYard, where you're broadcasting, you're preaching, now you know how important it is. Now that we are recording presentations now, we know now we got to have better PA systems, better cameras, better lighting, because now we are truly reaching the masses. People that would have never came across our threshold are hearing our messages, are hearing our teachings, are now understanding our Bible studies, being a part of any of our worship gatherings. Now is the time to adapt to these ever-changing times. Bigger than you, times of change and turmoil require our leaders to lead. Your ministry or team, big or small, is more powerful than you as an individual. Begin to tap into your leadership. Begin to tap into your team. Begin to pull people that you thought might not have had a gift, but God was waiting for this set time, this appointed time, for them to understand and know you have a purpose in this ministry. It is bigger than you and I. Now, our new identity, moving people, managing change involves preparing people for working differently and motivating them to modify their behavior. Sometimes when we are changing, we'll take the old mindset and try to put it in a new way. God has even told us you cannot put new wine in old wineskins. And so our mindset, our mentality, our psychological thinking has to change. We have a new identity in this change. Where we thought that we were not going to be Facebook famous, now we know that Facebook has become a medium, a platform where the message has become clear and can be delivered all over the world. Do you know that your recordings are now played over across the seas, places you've never even been able to touch with your feet? Your message is coming across. So that is leading through these radically changing times, and we got to be prepared for the move of God. Managing transitions. Changes happen in the physical, but we must also focus on the psychological that comes with the change. The human element of change is helping people move from psychological mindset of an old identity to a new identity. They have to see, how am I in this new way of ministry? How am I in the new way of worship? How am I in this new way of teaching? We got to change them from where they used to sit and be a lecturer. Now they have to begin to be an interactive teacher. Now where we used to sit and preach to the people, now we gotta begin to talk with the people. So we got to show people their new identity. Leading during radically changing times. I love this quote. Stars are not praised when shining during the day, but at night. So even in these changing times, even in these dark times, let your light so shine. Be a dynamic leader that adapts. Leading during radically changing times pushes us out of our comfort zone and into an ocean of opportunities. I know y'all see the sharks. Yes, there are some dangerous waters. But I know a God that says, I will not let you drown. I will not let the waters come over you. So when I see in these changing times, I don't see our limitations, but I see our awesome opportunities where we can reach the masses, where we can reach people, where we connect with people. Prayer walks have become so important now. Where we used to ask people to come and pray, now let's go walk in neighborhoods and reach out to people. Well, let's go on to the hospital grounds and begin to do prayer vigils for those patients, for those staff members. Let's go to the schools where we see there's so much dangers and toils and snares for our children. Let's pray on the school grounds. So to cover our children. There's so many ways. Reach your young people through text messaging. Give them a one-sentence sermon every week so that they can digest that thing. They can pass it on. I'll tell you a little story. I used to send a bunch of my young people inspirationals, and they used to be able to send it to their Snapchats and send it to their Twitter and their Instagrams. And they used to get angry at me because they already saw that message from another young person that posted it, and they thought that they were the only one. I had to laugh at them because why are you mad? But it was because they wanted to be the first ones to share it. So that's another way that leading in these changing times, you got to learn how to text message your young people, got to learn how to text message and use these different platforms to reach your young adults, your millennials, to even reach your seniors. Some seniors record a message in Zoom and then shoot that video to your seniors and let them be able to replay that and be able to say, look at my pastor, look at my class leader, look at my community leader that's in the church that's sending us an inspirational message. Doesn't take but 1 or 2 minutes of your day, but it can change a lifetime. It can change someone's life. It can transform someone. It can be able to uplift someone. When somebody shares that message to someone, you can be that change. Leading during radically changing times, we have to be adaptive and intentional in methods we employ in these changing times. We got to be able to reach outside the walls of the church. The mission of the ministry has not changed, but how we address people, how we connect with people. I love the saying, this is my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. John 15:8. The mission of ministries, the highways and byways have become digital. We cannot be afraid of trying and failing. I think it's John C. Maxwell has a book, Failing Forward. I've read that thing over and over again because I fail so many times trying new and different things. Sometimes it just didn't work. Sometimes it just didn't deliver, but I learned something from it. So do not be afraid to try new and different things. We must help people identify themselves in the transitional period of change. We don't want to leave no one behind. Where somebody was doing 8 tasks as you're transitioning into this new and radically changing times, they may be able, with their spiritual gift set, to do 4 things great. That means you got to raise up another leader to do those other 4. And now both of them are going to bear great fruit because now they're doing what is their passion, they're doing what is their spiritual gifts and their talents. And that's how you, when we talked about a few slides before, having a succession plan, because I want to be able to train up the next female presiding presiding elder. I want to be able to train up that next young adult. I want to be able to reproduce leadership in different people. So that's what we got to work on. So I want people to get up out of their chair and then run and tell the story that this message, that these leading and changing times, you can lead. Everyone has a great opportunity to lead. So let us celebrate the move of God. Let us be creative. Let church become epic. Let church become epic. Epic. E, experimental. P, participatory. I, image driven. And C, communal. Let church be epic. To connect with postmodern church, the church will become epic. Experimental, participatory, image-driven, and communal. We got to begin to open to change. It is going to be paramount in our survival and strength in ministry. We got to start searching for new ways to reach people, but we got to celebrate the move of celebrating the move of the unchanging nature of God in radically changing times. I love this scripture. I'll tell you, whoever publicly acknowledges me before others, the Son of Man will also acknowledge before the angels of God. We got to celebrate all of our different tries. And even if we fail, we got to keep trying. We got to celebrate each other as we are coming together and leading in these changing times. It is hard. It is scary, but I do know a God that will not leave you nor forsake you. In this new changing time, peace may finally come where we know and understand that the battles will continue to flare up, but we serve a God that is a conqueror. In this new and changing time, we got greater appreciation for the connection between the spiritual and health, which will inspire changes in how we take care of our bodies. In the new and changing times, church will demand the most from their members, who will be the ones that most likely to grow. You got to begin to work with your people, work with your community, begin to be a social justice driven church, which means I care for the welfare of my people, not just when I see them on Sunday morning, but how are you having a living wage when you're going to work? How is daycare? How is your healthcare access? These are things that in these ever-changing times, we as community leaders must focus on. We got to also understand in this new millennial, there are going to be female leadership that is going to show us that how do we work with different races of people. We got to continue to move forward. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Middle District Missionary Baptist Church, Reverend Dr. Reginald Wells, ministers and lay leadership for this awesome opportunity. Leading during changing times, we will always, always be guided by the Holy Spirit. Do not be afraid of leading during these times. Remember, church has to be epic, experimental, participatory, image-driven, and communal. God bless you, and may heaven smile upon you.